6 Northern Terrafly runway heading runway 5. Clear for takeoff.
From Psychic Sundays to ET Contact and everything in between, this is Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with host Elizabeth Anglin.
Check it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That'd be great. So guys, smoke now.
You can connect with Elizabeth on Skype at 505-908-9558 and Spirit for Peace. Follow Liz on Twitter at Elizabeth Anglin and hashtag SpacedOutRadio. And you can connect with us on the web at spacedoutradio.com.
I feel the need for speed.
You feel it over and over again. We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again.
Chillers, real now. Smoke off now.
This is the love we live again.
Chillers, ready, Lord, and outside.
Letting go the heart will go.
Contact. Easing up. Chillers, real now. Real now. One left.
Don't look much like Los Angeles to me. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Now taking you on a spiritual journey from the desert of New Mexico this Sunday night, here's Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin.
Chillers, ready, Contact. Contact. Chillers, turn now. Smoke off now. Chillers, ready to try. Speak now. Chillers, turn now.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. I am your host, Elizabeth Anglin, coming to you from Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Cruisemobile. We are coming to you from the stormy, windy, wild, and wonderful desert Southwest, specifically the art colony of Madrid, New Mexico. We are not live tonight, as I have pre-recorded this interview with Byron Lacy earlier this week, but you know, this is still a great interview, so stick around. I'll be on chat for folks on Spreaker and on the SOR Space Travelers chat room to answer any questions. Byron is a good friend of mine, so I know some things, and if we're lucky, we might be able to get him in chat. We'll ask. First of all, before we start the interview, I want to thank everyone who's listening in from around North America and the world, and especially everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on KTLK The Fringe. Thank you guys for being here. We love that you're listening in. We also want to give thanks to our guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio rock, especially here on Sunday nights. We rock hard, and we want to say thank you, Ron, for letting us do that. If you are on Twitter, you can check us out at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you go to patreon.com, you can help support us in our efforts to bring you the best in paranormal and experiencer radio. We have cool offers for you there, and we hope you check those out and take advantage of those. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign in to one of the chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. And if my computer behaves, I will see anybody who's on Twitter tonight. Crossing fingers, hope that's so. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some pretty decent swag for you guys, our valued listeners there, and it's our opportunity to get back to you once a month at the SOR Roundtable. Also, please check out on the website our news section, The Encounter, that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. And you can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. If you've had an experience you can't explain, the website is here for you. Fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researchers are ready to help you find out what's going on and help you get through it. So again, big thanks to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key. To the Spaced Out Radio family, way down in Noonan, Georgia, we just love having you around and spending our Sunday nights with you. Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. Hey, we are live in Sin City. Just don't tell anybody we were there or what we did. And at the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and listeners from over 160 countries around the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And along with that welcome, I am so pleased to also welcome my very good friend, Byron Lacy, who is the author of the book Taken by Aliens, where he describes his lifelong experiences in alien abduction. I have actually remote viewed myself on a ship with Byron, where he was acting as my bouncer, because there was a time when I was a brat and I used to throw aliens against the wall. So Byron, being a big tall guy, was the guy who kept me from throwing aliens against the wall. Byron is from Nacogdoches, Texas. I hope that's okay that I outed you there. And he's been an artist and a teacher and a musician for a very long time. Byron, thanks so much for being on the show with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, and thank you for having me on the show, Elizabeth.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm so glad I get to talk to you. Today we're going to be talking about alien interventions, like all the times we got saved. And just so you know, we can't swear because we're on terrestrial radio. I was going to say some letter Heinies got saved. We're going to be talking about that. And you just had an experience where you had, or you believe you had, an alien intervention earlier this month. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. And it happened on Sunday, November the 5th. And at first, I thought that there were no aliens involved until I started thinking about it all and did some research today, which I'll talk about in a minute. Anyway, I was coming home, and it was 6:41 at night, and it was very, very dark. And I was going about 72 miles an hour behind this truck, and the speed limit is 75. So I pulled into the passing lane to pass him, and I got about halfway down his truck when I realized out of my peripheral vision that he was pulling into my lane. Well, I swerved into the turn lane immediately, and then I saw that he was coming into the turn lane, and I did some quick calculations in my mind, and I knew if I slowed down, the rear of his truck would slam into the side of my car. So I got into my pickup to try and get around him, and it goes my pickup has a large motor. Well, anyway, it carried me up to about 75 miles an hour as I tromped on the gas pedal, and then I saw that in front of me in the turn lane, in fact, blocking the whole highway, was an 18-wheeler flatbed. And that's why he'd been coming into my lane. I'm sure he thought it was just a mess in one lane. And then, because at that point, when I saw the truck in front of me, and I know I'm jumping around, when I saw the truck in front of me, I slammed on my brakes, and I was about 35 feet from impact. I slammed on my brakes. He crashed into the truck, and his left fender, and probably the right one, but I didn't see that. His left fender sort of exploded, and the lens to his light and parts of the fender shot across in front of me. And then 2x4s came off of the top of the trailer that I was about to hit. And I looked and I thought, man, my car is not slowing down enough. It's not slowing down. And that's what's getting ready to happen to me. And then all of a sudden, my car, which was going about 60, slowed down drastically and just stopped 5 feet from the truck that I was going to hit. So I had the truck that was stationary in front of me, 5 feet from me, the truck on the right side of me that had just smashed into it about 8 feet from me, and I was just sitting there. So I turned around and went home. Well, this morning I got to thinking that I had heard something like you're supposed to keep a car length between you and another car for every 10 miles that you're going or something like that. And I decided to look up the stopping distance, and to stop your car from 70 miles an hour by slamming on the brake, which, by the way, they suggest you don't do because you can flip your car. And I realized that, but it looked like I didn't have much of a choice. So my car, I stopped it in 30 feet. And every sign I looked at, it says going 70 miles an hour, it takes 315 feet to stop a car to zero by slamming on the brake. So that just wasn't possible.
Do you remember anything? Like, did you close your eyes? Did you blink? Was there anything else that went on that led you to believe that something unusual happened besides the fact that you were just too close to stop in that distance?
No, I didn't. Well, I didn't blink or anything, but when the car slowed down, I went, wow, that's weird. I mean, it seemed to me like the car would slow down over a distance by increments, not just keep going real fast and then slow down to zero almost in less than a second.
So it's almost as if time became digitized in some way and or pixelated instead of a smooth, transition from going 75 to being fully stopped.
Well, now visually I couldn't tell any difference except that it was so fast. And I mean, it was faster than slowing down from 55 to zero. And after it hit that point, and I thought, wow, they didn't look after me. But then today, when I looked at all that, I'm going, well, they did look after me. For a little while, I thought I had saved myself.
Right. And then you thought about it, and it wasn't really what you thought it was. Now, that's happened to you before, though, in your life, starting at a very young age. Didn't you have a few experiences in your youth where you had what had to have been an alien intervention?
Yes, and starting out in 1952 with an incurable cancer. In fact, I have a sister because of that, because the doctor told my parents, after he found out what was wrong, he told my parents to go have another baby so it wouldn't be such a blow when I died. And I had a sarcoma. They operated on me. Obviously, I'm still here. And then in 1961, a car accident where I was hit. I was riding home from school. I was 11 years old, and I suddenly saw this big car, brown and tan, like a Dodge or a Plymouth. I mean, a real monster in 1961. It was coming straight for me, and I didn't have time to do anything. And then I was on the ground rolling. There's this big blackish empty space of where that car hit my bicycle and me. I'm rolling on the ground, head over heels. The front tire and bumper and light, well, the tire itself is about 3 feet from me. Every time I'm coming up, maybe even closer, especially the bumper. And then my body straightened out and flew through the air between 2 wires on a barbed wire fence. And I had one small 1-inch long cut that was not very deep where one of the barbs dipped into my arm, or my body raised up to it. And I landed on the ground and I had a sprained ankle.
And that was it. That's so unusual, because I have an experience, and we talked about this last month. Our science editor Eric Markham and I were talking about the Mandela effect. I wondered if they had somehow initiated a Mandela effect for me, because at 15 I was riding my bicycle and I was coming to an intersection where there was a diagonal train track in the intersection, and I really didn't need to hit the train track too much. I was gonna, I just happened to catch my tire. I'd been over that train track a gazillion times, and this time it caught my tire and it sent me tumbling into a car that was approaching the intersection, rolling on the ground, and I rolled under the car. And I'll never forget the car. It was a white station wagon, an old sort of beat up white station wagon. And I woke up, like, in the tumbling. Of course, I closed my eyes and sort of did the, make yourself spin thing, because you don't want to hurt yourself and get road rash. And when I ended up under the car, my head was against the front tire.
Wow.
And I picked myself up from under the car. I went, oh, Jesus, please help. Picked myself up. It stood behind the car, and I thought the guy driving would at least check to see that I was okay and nothing was broken, and did I need to go to the hospital, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. He took one look at me standing out beside his car and sped away as fast as he could go. And it wasn't until I got to be 24 and I had my near-death experience that I remembered and was aware of. And I'm standing beside, and for you near-death experiencers, you won't have a moment of hesitation believing this. I'm standing beside Jesus, and he's saying, and I'm saying, oh, is this it? Is this the end? And he said, no, it's not the end. It wasn't the end last time you were here. And I'm like, what do you mean last time I was here? and then he showed me under the car, and the tire had actually run over my head.
Oh, wow.
And so the intervention was, it was either a direct, full-on, aliens intervened, they fixed my head, and they put me back in time, at a different time backwards in the timeline, or took me out of the timeline, fixed me, and put me back next to the tire, or it was like a Mandela effect. They just shifted me over to the next timeline. And I was never really clear on that, because at the time when I was 24, I didn't know anything about a Mandela effect or parallel reality, so I didn't ask the question. But it was so odd to see this situation of, oh, this is not my first time. I've been here at the pearly gates having a life review. It's like, well, how did that happen? So, but it's so interesting, because it's the same thing, because I don't really know what was happening as I was rolling. I didn't feel my head, rest against the tire. I just remember opening my eyes and going, oh crap, there's a tire by my head, and going, what just happened? Just like you didn't really know what sent you flying. But did you ever get regressed for that experience or anything? Because I didn't for mine.
No, not that one. I haven't been regressed for very many of them. When I was rolling in front of the car, I had no control of my body. It was like I had been just shut off from being, which is a good thing. I would have killed myself by trying to move or something, in the wrong direction. But I had no control. It was like my brain and body had been disconnected from each other. So I could just watch.
So, yeah, that, did you feel any energy, or did you feel something else take over your body at that time?
No. And
No.
Sunday when, no, I didn't. Um, Sunday when I was trying to figure out what to do, I threw the wheel to the left to try and swing the rear end of the car around and hit it sideways instead of dead on. And the car didn't move at all. It just kept going straight. It's like I hadn't turned the wheels. And I drove out there just the day after, and there were no tire marks where I stopped.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I had an event where I was trying to avoid hitting a deer on Route 62 right in front of Ralph Lauren's house in Colorado, his big ranch. Deer walked out in the road, and it was too close, and if I swerved, all sorts of bad would have happened, so I just slammed on the brakes. There are black tire marks to this day in Route 62 where I slammed on my brakes, and I was going to say, did you get those? Because you should have certainly burned some rubber trying to slow down, but there wasn't
Yes,
any.
definitely. I mean, when I put on the brakes, I raised up off of the seat and let all my weight go down onto that one pedal.
And no tire marks. Wow. So something was going on.
And all the next day, every once in a while, about 5 different times the next day, I would suddenly have a flashback. And it was like a movie, and I would see that truck next to me smashing into the one in front of us. And then I would start laughing for no reason, I guess, except that I wasn't dead.
Did you have anything? I mean, did you have strained muscles? Did you have anything at all? Any signs that you might have actually been in an accident and it was reversed?
No, I'm perfectly fine. And it happened at about 6:41, and I called 911 at 6:44. So it would have had to been. They might have pulled me out there, but I think they just stopped the car.
Interesting. So Byron, this kind of begs the question. A lot of us who are abduction experiencers and contactees, we feel like we're here for a purpose, and that we're not really getting out of this until we're done. Did you have any thoughts about that this last time?
Actually, I did today. And I've been told by 2 different psychics, and I don't remember which ones, that part of my coming here, there was an agreement made that they would keep me from dying prematurely. And they would protect me from disease and accidents. And they have, because I don't remember them all right now, but they've saved my life now 9 times. Before it was 8 times.
Uh-oh, is this the last time, or do you just think it's until you're done? Because 9 times, it's like, Byron.
I know they would. I don't know what number 10 is going to be like.
I had a friend, Dave, who is also an abductee. He ended up passing away in a drowning situation. So, his girlfriend tried to say it was an accident, but we all knew he wouldn't go in above his shins. And he used to go to barbecues with a lot of us abductees. He used to throw barbecues for people in John Mack's group. And he would talk about his 9 situations of not dying when he should have. And they were, the way he said it, it was actually hilarious, because it was like, okay, yes, you should have won the Darwin Award. Okay, yes, you should have won the Darwin Award. And he hadn't. Do you have any Darwin Award moments that you would like to share, where it was just, you did something so completely bonkers that, why are you still here?
Well, no. Not that I can think of it.
It's just dumb luck. Okay.
For them, I had another incident where my brain was disconnected from my body, and that was, and barbed wire was mentioned too, but it wasn't involved. and I'll tell you that in a second. Um, I was singing some songs with a band at a local bar here, just outside of town, and it's a huge metal building with a concrete floor, with a raised stage, and it's raised about a foot to 18 inches, and below that is a wooden dance floor, but it is laid straight onto the concrete. I finished 3 songs, and I was leaving the stage, and I looked down and I realized I felt something tug on my foot, and I looked down and I was about to step off the stage. My foot was hung under a cable going between 2 monitors, and it's a very strong cable. And I thought I was dead at that point. Suddenly, without breaking a stride, my body, because I had no control and I wasn't even a thought to do this, pushed me up, dropped the toe that was under the cable, and then with the foot that was pushing me up, spun me around backwards and set me down in front of the stage. And the whole audience, and when I say set me down, I've tried this move on my own at home. And every time I jump and I land backwards, I have to take 1 or 2 steps to keep from falling over. But when it happened then, both my feet were put on the ground at the same time, and I didn't wobble or move backwards. And in fact, it was almost like I slowed down just a little bit before I landed. And the whole audience, which was about 40 or 50 people, were dead silent. And the singer goes, "We rehearsed that, ladies and gentlemen." I looked at him and said, expletive, I would never be able to do that if I tried. And I was right. I haven't been able to. And I was telling a friend about this, and he ended up telling me about a friend of his, because I mentioned the car accident too, that the year before that he had been killed in a car accident, and he was fine from the accident, but he flew out the window of the car and flew through a barbed wire fence, which grated him up like a cheese grater and killed him.
Oh no. So you basically don't want to go through a barbed wire fence in any way. Yeah, you want to avoid them. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and that's true. I mean, this is really graphic, but I remember working for a horse vet. We had a horse come in that had run into a barbed wire fence, and he was just flayed. You know, there was not, he survived, but he didn't have flesh on his legs anymore. And it was not a good situation. Oh my goodness. All right, barbed wire, that goes in the pile of evilness of modern civilization, I think. So let's get back to why do you think you've been saved from these various accidents and illnesses? What do you think your agreement is, if you'd be willing to share that?
Well, it's in my book, so I might as well. In March 15, I mean, I don't remember the date, but it was almost 2 years ago, and even though it seems like yesterday, I had realized that my soul was an alien soul. And I was told this by a psychic that lives in England, and she reads for one of the authors that does, he's really big into conspiracies about everything. David Icke.
David Icke. Mm-hmm.
She read for him, and her address, her email stuff was in a book that I bought, so I got in touch with her. Well, the second time she read for me, she told me that I will, and she said, "This may sound odd, but you're actually an alien." And then she made this weird British laugh. And now this was the first reading. Well, a year had gone by from my first reading, and everything had happened except this one thing, of course, which it really wasn't a prediction. So I sat down and meditated about it, and then suddenly these 2 fingers reached into the back of my head and pulled me out and left my ego and my body there and took me to another dimension, which doesn't follow any of the rules of this dimension, and a physical body could not even exist in it because there wasn't air or anything like that. Well, they told me they were proud of me for realizing this and that they'd been waiting for me to figure it out. And then they told me a whole bunch of stuff that I think has come to me slowly over a couple of years, but it's ideas because it downloaded so fast. Well, anyway,
let's stop for that. We've been having a lot of conversations lately about downloads. I'm one of those people who I get downloads and they're like a minute or a minute and a half, and my brain goes, ow. Our Keith Andrews, who's a regular on Spaced Out Radio, he's the same way. It's a minute and a half. He doesn't go ow, but he spends time sort of afterwards going through what came through. And then there are other people who have a more gentle, longer experience of, galactic core energy, being connected with all that is. What are your downloads like?
Have you ever used a dial-up connection on a computer?
Yes.
And it makes all this noise. Well, it was like that. It was pictures, it was words, and it was less than a minute. It was just like this massive barrage, and it was making odd noise, and then it was gone. And the thing I remembered at that time was a sentence that was said while it was always going on, and that sentence said, "Interest on loans are the chains of your slavery." And I quickly set about getting out of debt. And it took me a year, maybe a little longer, but I got out of debt. And I've worked to stay out of debt ever since then. And it wasn't just for me. I know that statement was for everybody. Our debts are what enslave us.
Right. Because somebody is making money off of us for doing nothing except having had this fact that we once borrowed money from them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Go
ahead.
We're taught, or we get this image from society, that we're not supposed to default on our loans.
Right, and especially in the United States. Now, in Europe, I have friends who are from the UK, where there's much less stigma. It's not about defaulting, but if you need to claim bankruptcy, there isn't this long-term 7-year, it's hanging over your head that it's on your record for 7 years. It'll be wiped off in like a year and a half. And the way that they perceive it is that, it's just healthier for the economy, healthier for the person, not to have to deal with bankruptcy and being punished for not having had the means to repay a loan. If it's only a year and a half, something very quick like that. People who are from the UK, you'll know, you can comment in the chat room if you're in the chat room. But yeah, it's here in the United States, there's a great deal of shame, and it's almost as if our being not good enough is also part of this process, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So, and then it comes into, there's, a lot of people ask, what's the correlation between an alien abduction or an alien experience and spirituality? But a lot of times it's just these simple truths that come through. If you're made to feel not good enough and you get into debt and something happens, then you're made into a spiritual, energetic slave, right?
Right.
All right, so what are you here to do, Byron? Are you here to break the chains? Yeah, what's your job?
What's my job? Well, for one thing, I was supposed to come here and work on spiritual advancement, of which I was stripped of when I came here. One of the things I've learned is that, like, animals on our planet grow to their complete development by the time they're adults. Human beings do not. We stop usually, unless you start on the spiritual path. It's like your ego develops. You can function in society, you can make a living, have kids, all of that stuff. So if you decide you want to go further, like Buddha or Jesus or anywhere in between there, you have to work for it. You have to work on the path. So part of my job was to develop myself psychologically or spiritually, however you want to say it. Another part was to write my book, to put in my 2 cents worth towards helping bring about disclosure, and also to help other abductees, and then to help some people. Some people have read the book and found out that they were abductees. I'm sure you've had the same with yours.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I mean, mine is more subtle than yours. Because of the way I wrote it, I just allude to it. It's like, here's what it's like to be an abductee and be in denial or not really know what's going on. Whereas in your book, what I really like about it, it is for the abductee. It's like having warm milk at night or tea with honey and a good blanket. And I so wish that when I first went through my experiences, somebody could have thrown your book at me and said, here, go take that, go put that on your bed table, your night table, and read that before you go to bed. Because it's this very calming and soothing, and it's like, hey, you're all right, this happens. And you're going to be okay. And mine is more, I'm trying to maybe speak to people who haven't had it happen, to say, this is what it's like to grow up and have all these things happen and not know WTF is going on. And so your book is more like, it's like medicine. Mine is more of the lightning bolt, like, hey, people, stop making fun of us. This could happen to you, and this is what you'd feel like. And yours is like, here, have some opium in a good way. If you have a bad cough and you just can't deal with it, it's like, here, you'll feel better. Read this. And I love that.
That's one of my chores, is to help abductees or contactees to become more comfortable with what's going on, so that they can sort of chill out and reap the benefits. If you're afraid, and just them coming in your room without you knowing who they are, that they're coming, or how the heck did they get in my room, that's scary. Well, people can, sometimes they can't ever let go of that fear. So every time it's fear, and they do some things that hurt a little bit, but they always wipe it out of my memory most of the time.
My father, sorry for the dead air, folks. My father used to say to me when I was really upset, he'd say, but they always bring you back. And they wiped out most of his memory too, but he used to be, his way of being calming was to say, look, they don't do you any obvious physical harm, and they always bring you back. And I'd be like, but Dad. And my whole thing, I was so upset because I did know somebody who they made a mistake with, and he ended up being brought back dead. And so the reason why I freaked out and was hard to make calm was because my friend in high school, or acquaintance in high school, had been brought back dead. But that doesn't happen very often. It can happen, like anything can happen, but it doesn't happen very often. I just happened to have been a party to witnessing that they had made a mistake, and he had not survived it. So not to make people scared, but it really is that way. Most of the time you get brought back and you're fine, and you don't remember it if you were freaking out or having a hard time. I just remember remote viewing you when I was in my throw the aliens against the wall phase. You'd just be like, okay, I'll stand between you and this little alien. Because I was like so mad. You just calmly stand there, be like, no, do not grab the alien, do not throw it against the wall. And I'd be like,
Yeah, Please do not touch the aliens.
Right. They're very fragile and easy to break. It's like, I know. But so you've been doing some music that based on, you know, your path with this, and we may get a chance to talk about some time manipulations, but you have a song or a piece, not a song, a piece of music that you sent to me called Lost in Time. And when I first listened to it, I didn't, as a musician, I didn't think it was lyrically or anything I really enjoyed, and then I listened to it again, and I noticed that it was not about music. Can you tell us how that came about?
Yes. In several years ago, 2 or 3, I'm really away from time right now. I was listening to a CD, meditating. This was a meditation CD, when I got in really deep, and it suddenly started, and I had been using this CD for over 2 years. So I was a little bit shocked when the sound started playing that had never been on that CD before. And it was like random music or random sounds, but it was prettier. It made more sense. And after it was over with, I couldn't remember it, unfortunately. But about a year later, I was watching TV, and an ad for the Super Bowl came on, and it was done by Mountain Dew and one of their drinks, and it was trap music, but I didn't know what it was. I had never heard it before, but I'm going, wow, that's related to what I heard the aliens doing. And because in trap music, they use a lot of sounds and things too. So several months after that, I found a synthesizer for sale, and I bought one because I had owned one years ago in 83, but I had never learned how to play it, and I don't know how to play the keyboards now, except I am learning some chords, and I know the way the keyboard's laid out, which was a revolution for me, and I don't see why, but it's pretty simple. Well, anyway, so I started working on this music, and I realized that if I put a good, strong beat with it, that I could do almost anything I wanted, and I could focus on the beat, sort of like a lifeline or a guide through it, and then all these other things going on. And as I was working on the first few songs took me almost a month each to do. Well, now I'm down to 1 or 2 days. But anyway, I would pay attention to my feelings and the way the specific sounds were making me feel. And I found that some of the songs were really invigorating. And even though they would relax me completely, and I also found that if I focused on the music and tried to hear every bit of it, because I usually have at least 3 to 6 voices going on at the same time, it would shut off my inner voice, because I couldn't do all that much stuff and talk to myself at the same time. So it would plunge me into an even deeper meditative state, even though I was being energized at the same time.
Okay, so when you talk about, you know, music that you heard the aliens doing, or things you heard the aliens doing, where and when and how did you hear this music from the aliens, or this type of sound from the aliens?
Well, it came through my headphones while I was meditating and listening to the CD.
Oh, okay. So it was like
the CD. It was just a totally random instrument sounds, the one that with no true organization in it whatsoever. But the alien thing, it was like somebody sat down and wrote all these sounds.
So they made it more organized. Yeah, they basically overlaid an organized piece on top of random instrument sounds.
Right.
So
that's what I started.
oh, very interesting. So, Lost in Time. Did you write it based on a sort of meditative state, or is this based on some of the alien experiences where time goes wonky, or where did the name for this particular piece we're about to hear come from?
Thin air. I picked the name. I sat down and made a list for several names that I would use. I wanted them to be have to do with space, with aliens, with UFOs, especially the first two albums did, the first three. And when I write a song, when I say I write a song, I go in, usually at random, I just search through drum tracks, and I get a good drum track that I like, and I start working with my drum machine and get it all laid out. And then I just start playing. Well, I'll look through the different voices on the synthesizer, and there are only like 500, and you can manipulate them too. So I find a voice that something in me goes, that one, and I start playing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I start playing, and sometimes it'll just start right on its own. Sometimes I throw that one away, but I can get a rough draft of a song done in an hour and 35 minutes now. Except I had one that took 3 days. So I don't know what I'm going to do. It's dependent on how those sounds make me feel. Like if that sound doesn't make me happy or interested, then I don't use it. And of course, I can alter them as well.
Yeah, because you can go back. Well, I want to play Lost in Time, and I'm going to say for all of our listeners, give this a chance. You know, before we start it, center yourself, get in a meditative state. When I first listened to it, I was like, ooh, you know, what's that? And then I was in a different frame of mind the second time, and I really enjoyed this, and I felt a lot in it. So I'm going to start this right now, and we're going to start low. So wow, what I love about this, Byron, is that there's a transition. Like you start out and there's a kind of minor that happens, and then I feel things shift, and then by the end of the piece you're going into a bright sort of major happy place. Did you mean to do that, or did that just happen?
No, I actually did. I always like to leave sort of upbeat if possible, or at least just strange, but not depressing.
Yeah. If people want to access your music, is there a place they can go online? Are you selling it anywhere?
They can go on Amazon.com. They can go on iTunes. They can go on CD Baby, and also almost every streaming service has it where they can stream it too. And then they can get it from some of them, at least. I haven't put them all on there yet, but from my website for music, which is just ByronLacy.com.
Okay.
All little letters.
In your book, which I highly suggest to anybody who has just found out that they've been an abductee or an alien experiencer, and they might be going through the trauma of that, is called Taken by Aliens. It's by Byron W. Lacy. Where can they get that?
That's not it.
Oh, it's not it? What do you call it now? Yeah, you sent me a book and I've got my old book. Remind me, what's it called? I'm sorry.
It has that. It's called, it's okay. I sent you a book that I published before I published it so that I could send you a published copy to read. It's called, and then I got the title, it's called Chosen: Chronicles of an Alien Abductee.
Okay. Nix what I said, Chosen: Chronicles of an Alien Abductee, and it's on Amazon, and where else?
Almost any bookstore on the internet. Barnes & Noble has it. You'll definitely find it, and it's on Amazon, and it's also in ebook. It's not an electronic book on Barnes & Noble, I don't think.
Okay. And I,
so it's
again...
Paperback?
Yeah. Paperback.
Sorry.
Yeah, paperback only. I highly suggest it, Chosen: Chronicles of an Alien Abductee, because it's so calming. It's just so soothing it's beautifully written. It's so soothing to read. Here's a person who has lived more than half a century, who has gotten through his experiences, his continuing experiences, and he's fine, and you write it in that way. So thank you for doing so.
Thank you. In life, I always try to be happy. And if I'm in a bad situation, I try and find a way to make the best of it. Not the worst of it, the best of it. And that's what I did with Aliens, too. I went, this thing's going to have to be reciprocal. I'm going to have to get something out of it. You're going to have to treat me good.
We're going to talk about that when we get back. We have a listener in chat, Corey. We were having this conversation about reciprocity, how she is really putting up her dukes and saying, I need reciprocity. So when we come back after the break, let's talk about that. We're here with Byron Lacy. We'll be back after these messages. We are back on
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductors.
Okay, y'all, I want to say sorry for that dead air. We're a little bit early for break, so I'm going to talk to you folks, especially folks who are in chat tonight. If you are on the SOR Space Travelers, I'll be looking for you. If you are in the Spreaker chat room, I'm looking for you. Feel free to, ask me questions about the subject matter. I do know Byron Lacy very well, and we have very similar experiences with the Zayton aliens, which are a mixed group. Somebody asked me that question. It's the ones that are not just gray. They are blue and white and and orange and multiple colors. And you'll even find from time to time some praying mantis beings and some very tall white aliens and some very tall blue aliens. So the group that we see, Byron and I have a lot of experience with, are that mixed group. And that's how we know each other as experiencers. One of the things we didn't address is that sometimes as you move through life, you will find other experiencers who share similar experiences with you and who you do have a connection with. And I think we haven't talked about it enough on Spaced Out Radio, but I think we're going to be talking about it more in the future. So stay tuned for that. We're going to go into break right now. We'll be right back after break with Byron Lacy for a little bit more and a little more music. So don't go away. And I am in chat. I'll talk to you there.
Abductees and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird? Right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to truth in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night. The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
Hey y'all, this is Elizabeth Anglin here back. I am back live because I'm having a slight issue with the Spreaker Studio. So what I'm going to do, so you don't have dead air, is I'm going to play the opening again. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just working out. Oh, actually I can't do that. So do me a favor. Entertain yourselves. There's going to be a little bit of dead air and I'll be right back. Sorry guys. Okay, so sorry guys for that dead air. This is Elizabeth coming back to you. I did not realize that Spreaker Studio would not let me pick up a recording where I left off if I paused it. This does not make me happy and is exceedingly unfortunate for all of us who were enjoying listening to Byron, and we're going to talk about reciprocity. So, given that I have to move forward with the show, and what I will try to do is cut my file during the next segment of Sage Magdalene, start cutting some files for y'all to listen to. Before I do that, before we start the next part of the show, which is Sage Magdalene talking about the Rabbit Hole Blessings Festival, and then we'll come back to Byron at the end, I want to welcome you all back to Cosmic Passport. I am your host, Elizabeth Anglin. Thank you for being here. We are coming to you from Madrid, New Mexico. And for all of you listening in from around North America, we want to welcome you, especially those on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on KTLK The Fringe. We also want to thank Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy, who creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend Rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music. If you want to check us out on Twitter, go to @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is Spaced Out Radio Show. Please check out our news section, The Encounter, that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. And you can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. If you've had an experience you can't explain with Bigfoot or aliens or Zetans or Pleiadians or whoever the heck it is, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researchers are ready to help you find out what's going on. Again, a big thanks to everyone listening at WQEE 99 The Key on the Spaced Out Radio family, way down in Georgia, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the United Public Radio Network station on 107.7 FM, KTLK The Fringe. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for being here and listening to Spaced Out Radio and Cosmic Passport this evening. That being said, I'm going to go into Sage Magdalene, who is talking about her Rabbit Hole Blessings Festival. Now, if BTO were here in the chat room, and everybody knows who BTO is in the Spreaker chat room, this would be a show for him, but I do not see BTO, so I'm quite upset. This is about being a spirit in a body and being okay with your ego, being okay with being separate but connected. Take a listen. And I'm going to be doing some technical stuff in the background if I don't say much on chat for a little bit. That's why. Okay, see you in a bit. I had an opportunity this week to meet up with Sage Sophia Magdalene, who is an artist creating experiences that promote radical shifts in consciousness leading to generous, generative, earth-loving practices of ecological reciprocity. She designs collaborative international gatherings, performances, and demonstrations that encourage cross-species communication and initiate quantum shifts in humanity's capacity to respond creatively and compassionately to the current planetary crisis situation and multiple situations. Sage's current project is the Rabbit Hole Blessings Festival. She is also a guide and trainer for the Animus Valley Institute, an organization that is dedicated to supporting the underworld journey to the soul and the initiation for present and future generations. To learn about and participate in the Rabbit Hole Blessing Festival, please visit her website, sagemagdalene.com/rabbit hole, and you can contact her at gatebetweenworlds@gmail.com. And the reason we're doing this show tonight is because the Rabbit Hole Festival is coming up, and it is participatory, and everybody can take part. Sage, thank you so much for doing this. How are you this evening? I'm so glad that you could be here. Now, what is the Rabbit Hole Blessings Festival? What are you trying to do?
the underworld in support of that world, which is the world that holds the meaning, the metaphysical background of this world. I am going to be traveling in the desert with 2 friends during that time, doing some visioning. And the idea came to me of linking the whole planet with our journey, our visioning journey. So the Rabbit Hole Festival is a way that people can participate from their own place on the planet.
So a rabbit hole is like a portal that you can put in your backyard or even in your pocket, for example?
Yeah. Yes. I sent out an invitation, and the primary one is that people go to a place that has earth. Could be their backyard, could be a local park, something that they can get to easily. And the rabbit hole, you don't actually have to dig a hole. You just mark a circle. You know, I have one in my backyard that's about 5 feet in diameter, and it's under some beautiful cottonwood trees, and it's a place that I can easily walk around. And I consider it a portal, a passageway or a gateway between worlds.
Okay. And what worlds? We have a lot of people who listen to this show who are very familiar with portals. We deal with portals a lot in the paranormal. But when you're talking about other worlds and the underworld, what are you specifically talking about?
Yeah. I am talking about, we use the underworld in my work a lot to refer to the world where each being, each thing has its own unique identity. This is, you could say, a complement to something like the upper world, where it's all about oneness and unity consciousness, right? Where we're all sort of mushed together into a beautiful unified energy. Mm-hmm. This is the complement to that, which is the place where each being has its unique, meaningful identity. And when I say being, I mean everything from human beings to squirrels to rocks to rivers. Everything has its own particular identity, its own particular way of expressing spirit.
And in this, you know, a lot of people are, I think in our sort of new age mentality over the years, we've adopted some Buddhist ideas of ego that may be not completely correct in saying that, okay, well, if you're an independent I, if you're an independent being, you know, your issue is going to be that you're separate because of your ego, or you're too much in your ego. But you're not really talking about beings in the sense that ego is necessarily a bad thing, but beings in their divine wholeness as individuals, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. I use ego to mean simply what I'm conscious of, how I am conscious of myself. It's not a bad thing. We all have ego, and we all experience ego. It's not meant as something negative in this context. And
when you connect with these other individual beings in the world, and in this process of connecting or going in, blessing the portal to the underworld, how does that affect the individual as you? Not just the other individuals, but what are some of the effects on you?
I'm a little confused in terms of the one doing the blessing. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I go out to my backyard and I have my rabbit hole set out and I have a place under a cottonwood tree, much like you, so I've picked it out. When I'm in the process of doing this, and I guess, actually I should ask, how do you do it? But first of all, if I'm going to go to take part in this rabbit hole festival to connect with other beings as their individual selves, what do I do?
Yeah. So the way I do it, and the way I'm inviting folks to do it, but everyone, of course, will find their own individual way of blessing, right? But we all have kind of an intuitive understanding of what it is to give a blessing. I recently was listening to an old tape from Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she said that blessing is to give strength, to offer strength. And so I started blessing the other day in my backyard rabbit hole. I have a friend who was off on a vision fast, and so I was being near that portal and sending her blessings. And then I looked up at this tree that was just radiant with golden leaves, incredible beauty. And I said to the tree, hey, would you be interested in also participating in this blessing? Would you send your strength down to that underworld with me? And it seemed to me the tree agreed. And so I began to channel down through my body the beautiful blessing energy of that elder tree. And then I thought, well, why not the little acequia, the little canal of water that runs through my backyard? Would you be willing to also provide blessing toward that world beneath the world? And so the waters began to flow down in my deep imagination through the portal and into that other world. And then I asked the grasses. And then my little dog Jupiter came trotting over, and I asked him. And then my neighbor Maddie came out, and I asked her. And I realized, wow, I could pour blessings not only from my own body, self, being, but all the bodies that are near me. And then I thought, oh, I could start offering the blessings of my ancestors, my mother, my father, my grandparents, my siblings, the stars. Oh, what about the moon? So you see, it becomes a radical opportunity to be in relationship. So I found myself deepening in my relationship to these other beings, but also pouring energy of loving blessing down into that other world, both for my friends who were visioning, but also just to that whole world.
That's amazing. So basically, you're looking at the energy of each individual being or type of beingness as a blessing, as something that's perfect and whole and complete, and can be, you can be in communion and be prayerful for whomever, anywhere. Is that right?
Yes. And I could start to notice, what is the blessing of a tree like? What is the difference between the way the tree blesses and the way my dog blesses, for example? Or the way a passing cloud is a blessing? What's the difference? And just feeling the uniqueness of each blessing.
I have this terrible vision now of my big dog Wyatt going out and peeing in the rabbit hole, but that's because he's a really good, strong peeing dog, and in a sense, it's a blessing to do that well. It's like some people can't. So I'm sorry, it's a silly mind movie happened there, but yes, Wyatt will go out and bless the rabbit hole, or he won't. I'll watch him because I am going to take part in this. It will be interesting to see what he does, because he's always interested in what I'm interested in, and how he does what he's going to do. You have a lot of collages and things that you have done from your underworld journeying, and you do a lot of art around this. What role does that play for you and for people who do this sort of work?
Well, for me, I've been working intensively with collages since about 2012. And for me, they have become a way of communicating with the underworld. Some people would say the contents of the underworld, what lives down there, might be seen as the unconscious. It's that what we don't know. And so I make collages out of magazines at random. I set an intention for the collage, and then I make the collage quickly in the hope that the underworld will speak to me through the imagery. So for me, it's a ceremonial conversation with the underworld or with the other world. And then once the collage is created, then I sit with it, and I am in some sense allowing it to have its way with me. I let it work on me. So I look at the relationships between the beings on the collage, just like I would look at the relationships between beings in this world or other worlds. How is that horse in relationship with that dinosaur, for example. What are they saying to each other, I wonder? Just allowing it to have an effect on me, whatever feelings come up. Sometimes I drum with them. I play my drum, or I sing with them, or I invite stories to come through them to me, or songs. I have an active, interactive relationship with them, which is what I also hope to have with the various worlds.
And so many thoughts come to mind when you say that. I'm thinking of you talking about the relationship between the horses and the dinosaurs. And I'm reminded of when my horse Otto, I moved him down from the Uncompahgre Plateau at 10,000 feet. I moved him down to the valley. And one day I was going to see him, and I got this vision from him as I was coming to see him. I sort of checked and said, Otto, I'm on my way. I'll be there pretty soon. He said, hey, you know what's neat about down here is there used to be this. And he showed me all these mammoths.
Wow.
And there had been mammoths in that valley, but he was connected with that. And he said, you know what's neat about being down here? There were all these mammoths. I'm getting to graze in a place where the mammoths grazed. And then I had this whole panorama of dire wolves and saber-toothed cats and mammoths and other Pleistocene animals, and I went, oh, this is awesome. So have you had anything like that happen in your conversations, or even in your conversations with your dogs, where they point out something to you that maybe you weren't thinking about, that really strikes you as, man, this is really cool?
Boy, that's beautiful that what your horse pointed out to you. I have particular relationship with spiders, and have since I was a little girl. First, I was afraid of them, and now I'm more in service to Granny Spider, and she is one who weaves the world in many ways. Many traditions see her that way. She weaves the fabric of the world, and she also has these trap doors. So she has told me that she and Grandmother Moon are currently doing gatherings. They're inviting all species to come together in the garden where they like to make beautiful webs. And in that garden, there's a trap door. And the trap door leads down to the underworld. But there's also a door upward. So if people want to go up more toward the upper world, that's also a possibility. So I'm often in conversation with spiders. They're around me a lot, and I learn a great deal from them about the various worlds.
Very, very, very cool. Our news editor, Everett Thiemer, he has had this year a large orb weaver spider on his porch. And he's afraid of spiders. And he keeps getting spiders on his porch. So Everett, listen up, because this is the lady to talk to about your spider issue. And he hasn't hurt his spider. I think the combined goodness of the Spaced Out Radio listening crew, we have convinced Everett not to hurt his spider, and he's put signs up on the web, like asking the spider to go elsewhere, saying don't walk through this web. So he's been in communication with his spider, but it's interesting because you are a spider whisperer. So Everett, if you're listening, talk to Sage. So that is so interesting to me. I want to talk a little bit more about underworld, where the underworld work came from. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can tell you about my personal experience of underworld work, and of course, where it came from is, as ancient as human beings, right? It's not like it's a modern thing that there's a world of meaning underneath this world. I think humans evolved with other creatures to be in deep, deep conversations, and more intact cultures know that their relatives are the plants and the animals, and the rocks and the stars, and most peoples of the world, maybe all peoples of the world, were involved in that conversation all the time. It was just an interpenetrative, wild, luminous conversation all the time. And that's been fractured in our time. For many years now, that's been fractured. So underworld traveling, in my perspective, is a way to repair our human loss of connection with our brothers and sisters, the natural realm, other beings of the earth. So I have for several years worked with Animas Valley Institute, and they work with people going into wild places. They guide people into wild places with a particular focus of individuals encountering their unique, what we call mythopoetic identity, that thing they took birth for, you might say, not in terms of a job, but in terms of a unique, particular way of being, like what I was talking about with the underworld earlier. So with Animus, we send people down to the underworld, and we will use a rabbit hole ceremonially as we send people off for perhaps a fasting time alone in the wilderness. And the guides stay by the rabbit hole and make their prayers for the person going off into that other underworld. So they leave through the underworld portal and they come back through that rabbit hole. And if they're lucky and if they persevere, they may find or encounter while they're there in the wilderness, they may find, sometimes we call it dream time, right? They might find something about themselves that is crucial to the way they'll live the rest of their lives, the way that they'll understand themselves as a creature of this earth. So that's part of how the underworld work has been lived in my life.
Very, very interesting. When you go on your journey and the people who are taking part in the festival are blessing their rabbit holes, what will you be doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My main purpose on this journey, as far as I know so far, is to be really deeply listening. And one of the values for me of having people all over the planet making rabbit holes and sending blessings down to the underworld is that I'm a kind of a gate between worlds kind of person. It's part of my mythopoetic identity to create portals and tend portals and support that web of connection that's invisible between worlds. And so I will be listening. I'll be in a wild place, a beautiful place in the desert. There'll be a little river there. And I will be sitting and drumming and listening and praying and wondering what the underworld would like to say to me. So I'll be listening not only at the portal where I'm sitting, but that portal will connect me to these portals that other people will be creating all over the planet. So I'm really interested in feeling the energies of that whole system of connection. Now, my friend Naomi's coming along for this journey, and she is, her two sons are trying to bring grandchildren into the world. They're trying to bring children for themselves, but they'll be Naomi's grandchildren. So she's become really interested in sitting at the portal at the place where people might incarnate. It's kind of the death-birth portal. And she's listening for womb songs, listening for songs to those who have not yet come into the planet, listening for the ones who might be the right time for them, and also listening for what needs to die. So we'll also be singing songs. One woman, one of the wonderful things that's been happening as people have become interested in this process, the Rabbit Hole Festival, is that they're sending me stories about themselves. One woman wrote and said that she's about to bring her second child into the world, and So I said we'd be singing songs for that one. So the blessings going back and forth between the worlds is also really interesting to me. So I'll be also singing blessings back toward this world, from which the world we're sitting in now, the world where all the people at the edges of the rabbit holes are.
So this rabbit hole is really a gateway between the veil, because as a medium, I find myself, I mean, what I do in terms of my blessing is I send Reiki to anybody who answers. It's like, hey, anybody want to come through and give a message, and they get Reiki, and so
Elizabeth, could you repeat that again? I lost you a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, your rabbit hole reminds me, it's very much like mediumship, only it's the way I do mediumship is, when I am asking for messages for people, I always send Reiki to whoever is sending the messages. So there is a reciprocity of energy that's involved that seems really important to the process for me. Have you found that to be the case in the rabbit hole work?
Yeah, and on one level, that's what it's all about. That's why I'm calling for it, is because I feel that humans have lost touch with reciprocal relationship. I mean, we're cutting off mountaintops and polluting rivers and dropping bombs on one another and so on and so forth. It's sort of an endless parade of atrocities in our world right now. So that in this world, we've forgotten how to live reciprocally, how to be constantly blessing the others that we live with. And similarly, we have forgotten to bless the world from which everything emerges, the world where these individual identities exist, the world where everything speaks. So yes, I'm with you on the reciprocal, the necessity of deepening our reciprocal capacities.
And I would just add to that there's much more to that in terms of I'm going to call it co-creation or co-generation of energy. But I love the fact that you've talked about Grandmother Spider being one of your guides, because when you have that co-creation of energy, what you have is a connection that is like a web. It's an energetic web. So that now makes a lot of sense to me in what you're doing, that you're making an energetic, you're opening, you're listening, you're giving energy to those who have messages or those who have blessings to give you. You're giving blessings back. And so in a sense, it's balanced, it's whole, it's complete. And it's true, in our society, we're not finding that as much as we should. Let's talk about that when we get back. Some of the things we have issues of energy vampirism that happen with people who do paranormal work. Do you mind talking about that when we come back?
No, not at all.
Okay. We're going to go to break in just a moment here. This is Elizabeth Anglin on Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Radio. I'm here with Sage Magdalene, the Gate Between Worlds, and she's talking about the Rabbit Hole Festival that's coming up starting on the 18th that you can take part in. We're going to repeat how to do that at the end of the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Good evening and welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. This is Cosmic Passport with your host Elizabeth Anglin, and I am coming to you live from the Cosmic Cruise Mobile here in Madrid, New Mexico, that art colony hippie commune that everybody knows and loves. Well, you should by now if you've been listening to the show. We come from this place every Sunday here on spacedoutradio.com. For all of you listening in from around North America and the world, I want to say welcome again to everybody listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, on Renegade Talk Radio and the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on KTLK The Fringe. We also want to thank our guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL. If you're listening in tonight, this is a pre-record. I will be in the chat room, but I will not be able to answer questions directly for Sage unless I know the answer to them. So, you know, you can ask, we can have a dialogue in the chat rooms on Spreaker or on Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers on Facebook. So just letting you know, it is a pre-record. I knew this was going to happen, but we got stuff to talk about. You know, we always chat. If you are listening, again, from any one of our member stations, thank you again for being here. Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, thank you so much. Noonan, Georgia folks on WQE 99 Rocky, UPRN folks, thank you for being here again. I am here with Sage Magdalene of A Gate Between Worlds, a gate between the upper world and the underworld being where the soul or the spirit incorporates in the physical world as an individualized being. Would you say that's correct, Sage?
Close enough.
Close enough.
A lot of different ways to say it, I guess.
Yeah, it could mean different things to different people. We're having a physical experience here. We were just talking about the importance of reciprocity versus a kind of energetic and psychic and emotional and vampirism. And we get this subject matter a lot in the paranormal. In fact, a lot of the people who are listening to the show are paranormal investigators, and they will sometimes find themselves in the midst of a situation where a being from an interdimensional reality that does not fit in this one is basically energetically vampiring somebody in a home or a family in a home. And we also have situations where other beings in other dimensions do similar things, or they feed off of the energy of pain, the energy of distress, the energy of separation, the energy of loneliness. Do you ever find that these types of vampiristic or predatory relationships are worked on when you do your work with the underworld?
When you spoke about that just now, got me to thinking more about the way that we function in our society as a whole, the way that we suck petroleum from the earth, the way that we rape and pillage all the ecological systems of our planet. This, to me, would be I guess you could call it a form of vampirism, of sucking the energy of something rather than being in relationship to it, rather than recognizing the vitality of organisms in collaboration and cooperation, which includes eating and being eaten, right? A healthy ecosystem, that's happening all the time. It's the lack of the sacred in that is happening in our world. And for me, being aware of what I'm calling the underworld, the world beneath the world where meaning lives, without an awareness of that, we enter into this sort of vampire-like way of being as people, in which we don't recognize the essential nature of community. We are a community of beings on this planet, and we seem to have totally lost touch with that. So I don't know if that responds particularly to individual vampiric creatures that you're talking about. I don't know that I have so much experience of that. I'm more struck by it as a way of life on our planet currently.
Well, it's interesting to me that you bring up I call that the macro vampirism. And when I was younger and I had this opportunity to decide my path, sort of going into my soul process of who am I going to be, what am I going to express here on this planet, I was given two major choices. And one was to get a PhD in economics and be the mediator between the folks in companies like Bain who would go and buy out a company and put everybody out of work and sell off their goods and sell off what was remaining of the company, so that everybody in the company of Bane would make money. So basically, they were doing a vampiric thing and putting a lot of people out of work. And the other one was to do what I'm doing now, which is to be a spirit medium and to work with people one-on-one. And I was shown these two paths, and I was like, what in the world does having a PhD in economics and doing this sort of mediation of big business deals or big anti-business deals have to do with the spiritual realm, which is what I'm really into? And then I was shown that every time you have a vampiric company, like a Bane, I'm just going to call it out, sorry Bane, but that's what I was shown. I'm telling you the truth. This is what I was shown. It's my experience. Every time that happens, what you end up with is all of these other situations of the perception of lack of abundance, and this tremendous wounding of the human psyche, which makes human beings and their children and their communities pray for further wounding. So the wounding, the psychic and the spiritual wounding, continues in a different way. It's not just that the company is gone. It's not just that there's no, nobody gets to retire. It's not just that the health insurance is gone. There's also a spiritual wounding in that. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great. And they said, and you'll make a lot of money. And I went, yeah, but I'll be really stressed out, So I sort of pushed that aside, even though I had a labor market economics, thesis in my undergrad. And I pushed that aside, and I came over here and I do this now. But it's interesting that we have tried, some of us who have been in spiritual work and work of the soul have been trying for years to sort of address this inequality, this giant, like you said, sucking sound of, petroleum and companies. When you do portal work, is there a way that you can address this specifically, or do you just address it on the level of the individual?
Well, the point, I guess, part of the point of doing this as a planetary rabbit hole process, as opposed to, me going out into the wilderness and having a rabbit hole and sending, 5 or 6 or 12 people off to do solo fasts. That's fabulous. And it may be that one or more of those people will come back with clarity about who they are so that they can live that into the world. But this planetary process, I am imagining, could have a massive multiplying effect. If you have people all over the planet sending blessings into the earth, into the underworld, and they're sending the blessings of all the beings around themselves, like they're sending their whole world to bless the underworld. This, I think, in the same way that you were talking about the vampiring has a multiplying effect, right? It leads to wounding after wounding for generations. I believe that the effect of this rabbit hole blessing process could have the opposite effect of blessing upon blessing upon blessing for generations, world upon worlds. So yes, I am looking at it as a large scale, having the potential for a large scale shift of consciousness, shift of intention, shift of experience for many, many beings.
And shift of awareness. I mean, how many people... I was rather lucky, in my 20s, it was my late 20s, early 30s, where I was given this choice. I was rather lucky to have awareness and to be listening. But if we shift people to being aware of our connections with all beings, with all worlds, with all dimensions, with reciprocity, with blessings, with positive energy, if we are able to help people shift into that earlier, then I agree. I think there could be a great prevention of harm or a healing of these generations that have been hurt, and a further prevention. What's our tipping point? I mean, has anybody talked about where we have a tipping point into more magnifying innumerable blessings versus, more parasitism? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a question I would have a clue about. What I do feel is that generating blessing energy all over the planet is only going to be a positive impact. Whether or not we could, well, here's the thing. We need radical shifts in our ability to collaborate and come up with creative solutions to very, very, very difficult planetary problems, right? That's obvious.
Right.
So for me, this is about the possibility of much more access to solutions, to creative ideas, to inspirations. It's like connecting with the muse. You could say the muse lives down there in the underworld, and we're inviting communication. So that's how I'm looking at it, as the potential for radical shifts in the way that people relate with the underworld and then the world they're living in as well.
And that would be beautiful. So during the break, an interesting thing happened. I just decided to sit quietly and drink my tea. And my horse, Otto, came forward and he said, I really like this conversation. And I said, thank you, Otto. And he said, what I want you to ask her about is how this work addresses loneliness through otherness, the experience of otherness. And then he showed me this picture of me. He was a white-gray horse, and he showed me this picture of me petting him and feeling the softness of his fur. But is there not something about us that when we get to this human experience on a physical planet that we are deeply lonely? And does this practice address that?
For me, it does, in the sense that this is part of the reason that I am encouraging people to make the rabbit hole physical, as opposed to just sitting in a chair, perhaps, and meditating, sending blessings. I think part of our loneliness as humans is that we have forgotten our profound relationship with all other beings, physically, as well as on every other level. So what Otto showed you of the touch is, for me, very, very important, to have the feet on the ground, on the edges of the rabbit hole, to be speaking directly with the other beings all around that rabbit hole, to be in touch in that way. When we know that we deeply belong on Earth and that we're connected with all the other beings, then the loneliness is a very different thing. If you're still lonely, if one is still lonely, then I'm not sure what that loneliness is. But this way of connecting seems vital, being in conversation.
Otto was sort of alluding also to the idea of the physical world. You know, a lot of us view our time here on the physical planet as a sort of penance, like we must have done something wrong, and our karma brought us back here. And some people even think, oh yeah, this is a prison for the wrongdoers, yada yada, etc. So you can have a very negative view of this trip. But Otto seemed to be saying that no, it's not about a penance, it's about spirit having a very sensual exploration of differences. Does that make sense to you as you do this work? Does it help make sense to you? Like spirit wanting to interact in a very complete way with different aspects of spirit.
Yes, I'm a little different than those folks you're talking about, I guess, because I consider it an incredible blessing to be in a body on this planet in connection with horses and dogs and caterpillars and all the other beings, clouds. Oh my God, this is such a beautiful place to exist. And yes, to play with the others. What an opportunity, and an opportunity in these times, of course, to be in service. How can I embody the truth at the center of me in such a way that it is supportive to all my people? And when I say all my people, I'm not just talking about humans by any means, to my ecosystem, to my planet. Wow, that's how it is for me. So this work for me is about connecting deeply with other beings and connecting on the deepest levels that I can, which includes an expanded state of consciousness, which includes the underworld, that place where spiders might talk to me directly, for example, or where maybe that's where you go when Otto talks to you. I don't know, you know.
I think it is. I've been thinking about it in comparison to my practice, and one of my, you know, what some animal communicators get, they'll get these very sort of high level spiritual communications with your animals, and I'll get, okay, he's got a bone fragment here, and you know, there's a twist in his colon there, and then but to me there's always this connection. It's like when I started in 94 doing animal communication at the horse vets in Albuquerque in the surgery clinic, there was, you know, surgery clinic is very distressing because not every animal is going to live that needs to come in for surgery. And the things that I started noticing is that everybody in the clinic knew when an animal wasn't going to live. They knew as soon as, either just after the phone call or as soon as the trailer showed up with a horse. And a horse would pop out and he'd look all bright and he'd look like, oh, this will be a piece of cake. And then somewhere in the next 2 or 3 days you'd find, no, it was what you thought when the truck came in, you know. and it was like the horses were saying, don't get too attached to me, because this is my portal out. This is my way out. And 9 times out of 10, everybody knew, you know, as soon as the truck pulled in. But then there was it was an interesting time, because for me it was when I developed animal communication. It was when I became a Reiki practitioner, was at that time. And then it became this very physicalized, you know, what is actually going on in there? Is it sand colic? Is it something else? Is it poisoning? Is it ate too much, you know, bark? What is it? And, you know, some people, when they think of a spiritual path, they think of, well, I'm going to connect to the oneness, where everything is light and everything is love and everything is one. And mine was, I'm going to connect to the illness. You know, I'm going to connect either with the transition into another state of being or the transition from illness into health. But it's very, very physical. Like I could feel all of the, you know, if a horse had sand in their belly, and I still can, I can feel, oh yeah, there's sand between here, and you know, you need so much psyllium and oil, that sort of thing. But, so I think it really is. I don't consider it going under because I don't go into trance. You know, I could be sitting here and take a second and sort of look at it. But I think it is because it is about the physical. Like my entree into work is really through the physical, like what is physicalized. And there are some people who, I think it has to do with that penance idea that they're trying to get above it or rise beyond it. Have you found people who come to you and they're in between states, like they may have their worldview may be, this is a penance, but I think I'll try this, and it just doesn't work? Or does anything ever happen like that?
Well, what that's bringing up for me is, again, a sort of a large cultural picture, which is that we have a lot of spiritual teachers now, it seems, that are encouraging this trips to the upper world, right, to experience unity consciousness. It seems to me that a lot of meditation practice and a lot of enlightenment kinds of journeys people are longing to experience unity. They're longing to experience what I think you described it as the light, right? Going to the light kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The underworld work is again more about the particularity of the incarnation that one is. The particular mystical way of belonging. So you could think of it as the complementary spiritual path, right? So we tend to think of spiritual path, this is probably a Judeo-Christian thing, as the spiritual path being upward to the heavens, right? And but there's another spiritual path that we could think of as downward, deeper into the body of earth. It is a very enchanting realm, though. It is not as though there's not light there, but it is a place where there are unique identities, like you with your illnesses and the particularities of a creature's experience. Whereas you might think maybe the more upper world experience of animal communication would be like the divine nature of horses in general.
We'll be right back after these messages with Sage Magdalene. It's going to be a little rough, the transition, because we're dealing with my lack of editing issues. This is Elizabeth Anglin. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after the break.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Radio. This is Elizabeth Anglin. I am your host. Your hostess with a plethora of technical issues this evening that are all completely my fault for not remembering what I was doing when I was supposed to be editing. So, that being said, I thank you for bearing with me, especially the folks in the chat rooms, the SOR Space Travelers chat rooms, folks on Spreaker. Thank you so much for coming in. We are coming to you live from the desert southwest, the Art Colony Hippie Commune of Madrid, New Mexico. That's right, as we do every Sunday here on spacedoutradio.com. For all of you who are listening from around the world, we want to welcome you back. Thank you, folks at WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Talk Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on KTLK. Thanks for coming into the chat room tonight, KTLK, The Fringe. We also want to thank our guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend Rock the official spacedoutradio.com music. You can check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show on Facebook. You can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download our shows from iTunes. We are also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. How fast can I talk? I don't know, but I used to live in Boston, so I used to talk really fast, and then I moved to the Southwest where I slowed down quite a bit. If you go to Patreon.com, we have some cool offers for you, our listeners there as well. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign in to one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. Do it. It's a cool thing to do. Please check out our news section, The Encounter, that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. And you can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. If you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researchers are ready to help you find out what's going on with you and your experiencer self and experiences, and also keep it very, very confidential. Again, big thanks to everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key, to the Spaced Out Radio family way down in Noonan, Georgia. Thanks again, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and our listeners from over 160 countries around the world. Tomorrow night, Dave Scott will be on with Amy Martin. They're talking about the paranormal or the alternative media. Now, some things have come up in the media that, if my plan for technical issue domination does not work, we are going to talk about. A plethora of things in the last couple of weeks in terms of conspiracies that were discussed, conspiracies and issues in the mainstream media, both spiritual and otherwise, that were discussed. But tomorrow night should be a really good show with Dave Scott. Dave Scott is going to be in the other 5 nights of the week. Dave Cruz will be back on Saturday. And on Sunday, I will be in with a really cool medium named Kelly Del Bianco, who is going to be talking about her galactic mediumship with alien beings, with angels, and with a Hopi Star Nation elder she calls grandfather. I don't know how else to put that. So we have another medium, a new medium, one you've never heard from before, who will be on. She'll give an interview the first hour of Psychic Sunday, and then she'll be on for the 2 hours with Jeanette Dames, who does angel readings. You have heard from Jeanette before. So stay tuned. Come back next Sunday. I will not be having technical difficulties next Sunday of any sort. Come back and hear Kelly Del Bianco and Jeanette Dames, and call in for Psychic Sunday to get your session. So we're back. This may be a little rough. What I'm doing is, through my own computer, I was not able to upload a abbreviated section of the next part of Sage Magdalene or Byron Lacy's interviews. But I'm going to play it on my computer. Tell me in the chat room if this works. I know you guys are always listening, and you will tell me right away. Here we go with Sage Magdalene and myself talking in the middle of the conversation. Okay, folks, I know that you can't hear what I'm hearing. I tried to do a situation of... Okay, folks, I know that you can't hear what I'm hearing, and now I'm getting an echo. Oh, that's not good. Hold on a sec. How's that? No echo. Okay. This is Elizabeth. I'm back with a plethora of issues and can't quite finish the session that we had with both Byron and Sage because of my lack of editing. Now you will hear me, and my thought about what to do for the rest of this time is to basically have people ask me questions and possibly even call in. I'm going to change my Skype to the appropriate audio setting for people to call in. Now, if you have, if you know me, you've heard me on the show before, you know that I can read for you, but I can also, just talk about stuff. So if you want to call in on Skype, my number, my Skype ID, if you've already on it, is Spirit for Peace, and you'll know who that is. If you want to call in at 505-908-9558, and be very kindly, otherwise I would cut you off. Yeah, cool, Elizabeth is a new medium. Thanks, Andy O'Brien in the speaker chat room. I will answer questions about things from either place. I will answer questions about the guests. So just to let you know, for the Rabbit Hole Blessings, there is a website for that called Rabbit Hole Blessings. Look for that. Sage Magdalene, do a search on that. You can do that right now. This is basically, we're on the very new part of the new moon, and this is going through to the full moon. And what it is you just make yourself a rabbit hole, put your blessings in it, and see what put your intentions and your blessings to the world and to all the animals and to everyone you want to bless. So if, for example, if you're in the chat room and you know that somebody's mother is having issues, you can make a rabbit hole down to the underworld to bless them. It's a kind of way of giving out to the whole universe, plus also allowing everything around that rabbit hole to give. So go to Rabbit Hole Blessings, the website, to set yourself up. This is a good time. There are over 100 people who are signed up to do this right now, and so the energy of it should be pretty fun. In terms of Byron Lacy, we will have him back, we will replay his interview once I have edited it correctly. And in terms of the rest of the show, there were some things I wanted to say that I noticed that came up in the past week, the past 2 weeks actually. One of the things was a story about climate change, but geoengineering. And it was, I didn't really read it, but I just went, hey, this is people in the government coming out about geoengineering. Okay, if you can't hear me, Andy, maybe you should refresh. And my Skype number is 505-908-9558. And you should be able to hear me talking. Is anybody having any problems hearing me talking? Let me know. My number is 505-908-9558. Okay. Anyway, basically the government was coming out about climate change and geoengineering. Well, I knew that would be happening. I didn't read the whole import of it, but I was amazed that they came out and were saying, yeah, we are intending to do geoengineering. That's really good. Not that they intend to do it, but to some extent, it is a necessary thing to keep clouds in the sky to make it cooler, because it's getting really hot. I hate to tell you folks, it is really, really hot. Here, especially here in the Southwest, in Houston and places, we are losing a lot of elderly people. However, that doesn't mean I'm for putting things that are going to make plants and animals and everybody sick in the air. So that came out. Another thing that came out was that researchers at Harvard said that they found what they thought was the seat of consciousness in the brain. And Eric Markham and I had been talking about the seat of consciousness, or what consciousness was, a few shows back on Nerdy. And Harvard came out just after that, and they think they found the spot on the brainstem where consciousness lives. Now, to me, I know how some people will read that. They'll say, oh, look, it's been proven that consciousness is a physical thing, because we found out where people, when things go wrong here, people become unconscious. They no longer have higher brain function. Okay, that's fine, but it may just be the place where that controls whether or not consciousness is in the body or not in the body. And there are lots of things that could be done in terms of research, especially with people like us, because sometimes our consciousness is not in our bodies, or sometimes our consciousness is bilocated. Not that we should all be having experiments on ourselves, but the research could go farther than, yep, see, look, it's all mechanical. Now, I'm glad that they found this place, because if, they really need to save somebody, or someone is a coma when they really is in a coma and they need to come back, and they will probably learn better ways of dealing with that sort of issue. But part of me that is cynical and has been hurt for a long time by the Cartesian worldview that everything is physical and nothing is consciousness or spirit or soul is kind of going, oh, look, yep, this is the next thing we're going to hear. They found out that consciousness has a seat in the brain, in the brainstem. So anyway, that happened in the last 2 weeks, which is kind of cool. And I'm just going to take a call from Christopher and see what he has to say. Hold on. Hey, Christopher. Oh, I can't hear you, buddy. Hold on for a sec. Christopher is trying to talk, I'm sure. I'm just going to check my audio settings. They are correct. I don't know why I can't hear Christopher. Oh, Christopher, can you hear me? Nope, still can't hear you. Type to me if you can hear me. All right, well, we'll see what's going on with that in a little bit. I will call him back. So that happened, and there was one more thing that happened, and now, because I'm dealing with a studio that doesn't like me, I cannot remember what it is. So I'm going to call Christopher. Yeah, we'll ask Christopher if his mic is muted. So, if you have questions in chat, I'm mainly looking at Spreaker chat. I will look at SOR Space Travelers in just a sec. Bob Davis, thanks for showing up. Vivian, thanks for showing up in the SOR Space Travelers chat room. Everybody who's listening. I will do readings. If you want a reading, please put your questions in all caps I will talk about other things. And we're just hoping that Christopher can get in. If you are listening and you want to try to get in, call 505-908-9558. Well, that did not work. Let me give him one more try. Okay, Christopher Wayne Fisher. We're going to try your mobile. Does anybody else remember what the other big piece of news was? Or do you have any news that we should talk about?
Hello?
Hey, Christopher.
Skype crashed.
I blame
the
Alan.
first time I had problems.
I blame Alan. So there, Alan. Well, that's interesting. What did you want to talk about other than Skype just being a jerk?
Yeah, I was. I went to the show yesterday, called Ghost of Christmas Eve, and it was a part of it that's really interesting is about spiritual intervention of help, and they help you find your way when you have no other way of doing it. It resonates with me what happened to me when I was 25 and now.
So you want to talk about spiritual interventions. It's something that I deal with a lot in my work because people will often come to me when they all of a sudden what they think they want to do isn't working. So what happened when you were 25?
My birth family found me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And a year before, I asked if my ancestors, so to speak, then what happened when I started, what happened to me like on St. Nicholas Day when I learned about Grace Kelly and stuff, about the same thing happened. I was told you can talk to the people in your family. I was given permission in a dream.
Well, very, very cool. So you got reconnected with family at 25. But did anything go away for you? Anything that you were doing, did it change significantly other than just a reconnection? Sort of, you sort of had It's a Wonderful Life. It feels like you had It's a Wonderful Life where you had an angel come in and reconnect you. But was there anything that you stopped doing or something that you thought was going on?
Part of negativity went away on that when I was 25, and when at the age of 40, when I started doing my root work, the nightmares I've had about my ancestors disappeared. And now a year ago, I've had pre-birth dreams, and I saw the whole sequence. You were born, and when I was in the hospital for almost 2 years.
Wow, that's a lot. So, Christopher, I want to talk with you more about that, but we got a question for reading from chat room. Do you want to just hang on? I'm going to answer Angel's question. And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try re-Skype.
Okay. Well, actually, if you would not, that would be great. Do you have enough minutes on your phone to support this? Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
charging.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I have 150 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want, I'll try you back on Skype. Don't call me because I'm going to be reading for Angel, and then I'll try you back. How about that?
All right. My Skype's active.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, then I'll do that. And so, Angel, I'm just going to look and see if I can connect for you. Now, I'm not supposed to have dead air when I do this, so everybody can sing the Jeopardy song. in place of my dead air while I connect for Angel. Angel, also, it does help me a little bit to know what the first name of your husband is, because I can target my connection by name, because I'm an Akashic record reader, but also because I have a protocol in second degree Reiki where if I have the name of any person, place, thing, situation, and can say it succinctly, I can connect with it. Now, in regular spirit mediumship, you wait for the spirit to come for you. But this, in second degree Reiki, if you have the name, you can do it that way. Hold on one second. Okay, Angel. So there's a lot of feeling of crying, and the message I'm sensing from this is that you're the one who's crying. He's not the one who's crying. You're the one who's crying, and he says it's okay. Go ahead and keep crying. It's the way he senses your sadness is it's like bad weather that you just have to go through. So he says keep crying, and keep crying. And when you don't cry anymore, you'll really be able to feel his presence more than you do. It doesn't mean you want to keep pulling him to you, because we never want to make our loved ones become earthbound. But there's a tremendous amount of love there that you're not through the grieving process enough to feel. And so he says keep crying, get that out, get all of that sadness out. And when the rainstorm is over, the metaphorical rainstorm is over, you will be able to feel how much he loves you. And it's a feeling down in the belly. You know, most people think of love in the heart, but this is like love in the belly, love in the solar plexus, and just a sense of being hugged and surrounded, and really protected, and really, really loved. But first, he says you got to cry and keep crying until it's over, until the crying is over. So, but there isn't really a separation. The separation that you're dealing with right now is the physical, and the physical separation is the hard part. But once you're done crying and grieving your way through that, you will get a sense that he is still around you in spirit. So that's the first thing, and the only thing that I've got for him as a message for you right now. He is just, I do see, he's kind of reminding me of my father. He's got a slow smile that goes up on one end, and he's doing a real slow smile that curves up on one end. Looks like the right side, but I can't tell. It could be mirror image. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope that's helpful to you. If anybody else has a question out of chat, just please write it in all caps, and I will do my best to answer it. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to get Christopher back, and we're going to talk about spiritual interventions, because they're cool. In the work that I do, I tend to deal with people who get stuck, and Sandra, okay, I'm looking at your question. Sandra's question is, I had my DNA done and there were surprises. Is there anything else I should know about? I don't know what your surprises were, so it's, the thing about being a reader is like we're looking through a tube, but let me ask your guides if there's anything else. No, they're laughing. Their point is, other than the potential alien stuff or the alien stuff, this is what I hear them saying. Other than the alien stuff, no, there's nothing else that you should know about. But they are, and I don't know how, if or when any alien stuff came out in the human DNA testing situation, because human DNA testing, they don't even test for that. They wouldn't know what to look for, it would appear to be like junk DNA or something. So your guides, I see two guides, and they're standing up above, and they're sort of laughing about the situation, thinking, she's asking if there's anything else, and it's sort of like making a molehill out of a mountain by saying, yeah, other than the alien stuff, nothing. So, and you're all right, so don't worry about that. Yeah. Well, a lot of us, Sandra, you say you come from Vikings. Now, a lot of us have a marker. We thought in my family that we were Cherokee, and I still believe that we are, because we do know our genealogy, and I do know which great-grandmother was Cherokee, and which great-great-grandmother was Cherokee, and which was half Cherokee. But when my father and my sister got their test done, they ended up with the marker for Finnish, for Viking. And if you're at all Celtic, if you have any Celtic background, if you have any Scots-Irish in you, if you have any French in you, or Netherlands, you're going to end up with this marker that is basically Viking. And part of it is just the history of the Vikings, that they did come and they did conquer in Scotland and Ireland and in England, and they did mix with the Celts, and they mixed in a bigger way than anybody really tells us about. So, around 1000 AD, 1100, we had these great Viking Celtic empires in Ireland and Dublin. And so, for example, the Anglin family, Sandra, is the name Anglin was given to somebody who was a champion of the chief of Dublin, as Dublin was called something a little different at that time. And this guy was supposedly very tall and very Viking looking, and somebody that you didn't want to mess with. And so basically a big warrior Viking dude. But he probably came about, he probably gained the name at that time because he probably was a Viking. So, yeah, Poles, Vikings are all over the place. You're Polish. Okay. All right. You'd have to look at the history of Poland, Sandra, to see where the Vikings come from. But the Finnish marker, I forget what it's called. It's got a specific name, which so many people who are in Western Europe have, is very, very Viking, because the Vikings were all over. Let's see. Christopher, can you hear me? I can't hear you. So Christopher is here on Skype, but I cannot hear him. I'll just make sure he's not muted. Christopher, I'm going to go ahead and call you back on your other phone. Because I can't hear you at all, buddy. Yeah, Sandra, was there anything else in there other than Viking and Polish? That's always fun to know what you have. I think that for a lot of us who, a lot of people in the U.S. are some part Native American, especially if your family has been in the U.S. or even in Canada since before the beginning of the 1800s. So the original Anglin ancestor, James Anglin, came in 1755. And, the funny thing about that for me was when I was a kid, there were these snotty women in my town who were daughters of the American Revolution. And I remember for some reason I ended up at one of these ladies' houses, and I think it was a bake sale kind of thing, and she said, "Oh dear, I don't have much time. I'm about to start my DAR meeting." And I'm like, "What is that?" And she goes, "Well, all of our ancestors came to the U.S. before the American Revolution." And of course we weren't into genealogy at the time, but she was just kind of really hoity-toity about it, and I was sort of like, "Oh, I don't want to be in any club you're in. You're such a snot." But now I know that the original Irish ancestor, Anglin, came before 1755, and in among that is a lot of opportunity because the Cherokee and the Eastern tribes were marrying people from the Western Europe at that time. So a lot of us do have Native American roots, but I think that there isn't appropriate testing going on, and it may be because there isn't appropriate sampling because everybody got so mixed. Don't tell anybody who's Native American that, or tell them and see what they say. But I think that it's oftentimes the testing is not geared toward Native Americans. Let's see. Anybody have any questions in chat? And I'm trying to remember what the other piece of news was besides the seat of consciousness. As I ramble along here, let's try Christopher on his phone, which he will find out in 30 seconds what's going on. Yeah, I have a family, Sandra, who loves historical fiction and nonfiction, especially my dad. It's
Hello?
crazy. Hey, Christopher. So Skype didn't work.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm tap dancing as fast as I can. So let's.
I'm all charged up.
Good. That's good. Christopher, have you ever had anything else, like a different kind of, just where you felt like you were maybe not going in the right direction and spirit intervened?
Yeah, like that, like those times I mentioned, and I had dreams that told me what was going on in other facets of my life that I'm not involved in. It was weird.
Okay. So you got warned, or you were told in dreams that something was going on that wasn't quite right. Huh.
And it came out to be true.
Oh, wow. So you were informed. Did you change your behavior because of those dreams, or did you become more wary, or, I mean...
More wary and more aware.
Okay. That's a...
like one dream I was warned about my adopted family son being sick. And a month later it happened, and that was right before St. Nicholas Day in 2010, right before I died. Got that info about the homeland.
Oh, wow. So, you died in 2010?
No, my adoptive brother, he almost died.
Oh, okay. So you were warned that there was something coming up, and he didn't end up dying, which is good.
But he got very, very ill for about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And he almost got placed in a home, like I was when I was younger.
Wow. So, but that didn't end up happening.
No, something intervened in that, in a dream I had about the crocodile going after him. I couldn't move, because if I moved, he would have looked at me before go after me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, there's a lot of issues with that side I mentioned to you in the message.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I managed to navigate through all this.
Mm-hmm. And Christopher, your story is really, really interesting too, because, by all rights, you really shouldn't be here on Earth right now. You were born way too young.
26 weeks.
Wow. I mean, that's just incredible that you're even here.
Yeah.
I had a student, and when I was doing therapeutic
I'm
writing,
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky I'm even alive. That's what I was told.
Yeah. Were you sick a lot when you were young?
Yes.
Yeah. Because your immune system hadn't fully developed yet?
I had infections in the whole bit.
Mm. And isn't there a thing where your body doesn't develop its ability to keep the right temperature? Did you have that?
Yeah, that's why I had trouble with being cold and stuff. And that's... I can't deal with extremes.
Right. You got to keep things the same.
Yeah. That's part of cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And I have a somewhat embarrassing issue I told you about that will never go away.
Right. Because it just didn't have time to develop. My student had the same issue, but he loved to ride horses. So we would, if it was cold, we'd wrap him up in a towel and he'd ride. We'd wrap him up in a blanket and he'd ride. When
I was younger, I was made fun of for getting cold easy.
Yeah.
And some people told me I should buck up and be strong, and there was a couple times I was abused at this workshop, and my stepmother told me to just buck up, and I deserved it.
Oh, that's so wrong. My experience with kids that have developmental issues or born too young are that they're really the toughest people that I've ever met. And, as somebody who's always been well-abled, popped out with everything functioning and then sort of took off running, I feel sorry for myself a lot. And when, I know this will sound weird to some people, but I was basically guided to become a therapeutic riding instructor for kids who didn't have that, who were like Christopher and had other issues. And the reason was not because I could be so helpful, even though I was good with horses and always had been, and was a Reiki master. It was because I had such a crappy attitude. You know what I'm saying, Christopher?
Yeah.
It's like I've got everything in the world going for me, and my attitude about it is total crap. And it took day after day of me just doing lesson after lesson with kids that just didn't have any of the advantages that I did, and they were so strong and so good at finding happiness. And
what's weird back then? If you've been in the hospital a long time, they didn't blame that as part of your psychological issues. If you're a foster kid with other severely disabled kids, they blame you being in that environment for enabling you. Back then, I actually had to fight them.
Yeah, and it's good that you did, because now they know better. I mean, now a lot of parents and people who haven't put their kids in institutions are fighting back against the system. The system basically wants to write off people with challenges, and so they'll come up, in my opinion, I don't know if you've experienced this, Christopher, is that they'll come up with the easiest box definition of what your issue is.
I was misdiagnosed until I was 35 years old.
Yeah.
You won't believe when I was diagnosed, I had the same diagnosis as our president does.
Which is what?
Personality disorder that never specified.
Oh, wow. What was your personality disorder? Malingering? Not that I'm saying that with disbelief, but that's ridiculous.
They didn't have my records because I was adopted.
Oh.
And I had to end up having a Social Security office order them released.
Oh. And so then they knew what was going on. It wasn't just a let's blame you for your issue kind of thing.
Sometimes you have to have the government force the records opened.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I've lived a pretty storied life.
Yeah, and I think I think it's hard for people who are like me who haven't worked with kids that had similar issues to you to know how amazing it is that you're here and that you're talking and you're fixing computers and troubleshooting and beta testing.
And I offered to help you and Dave with your Skype issues and all that.
Yeah, and you do a good job, and it's actually really incredible. You know, there are days when I'm working with people that don't have challenges, and I'm like, I want you to go for a week to a therapeutic riding school.
I think it would be good for anybody to go.
Yeah. It would. All right, so does anybody in the Spreaker chat or other chat room have a question? I'm going to check the SOR chat room. Sorry, it's been a little cold in there. Oh, and Michael is funny. Thank you, Michael. To be fair and serious, we don't expect you to be a completely professional broadcaster. Thank you, Michael. Quack. Technical issues happen, he says as he hears dead air and heavy breathing. Thank you, Michael. Well, I am aiming to be a completely professional broadcaster someday, but, you know, there are growing pains. I think I'm about 13 right now, maybe 12 in terms of my professional broadcaster experience. What do you think, Christopher? 13?
You're going to be among the amazing like Dave Scott. I have a feeling it won't be long.
Okay. We'll put some broadcaster growth hormone in my cereal in the morning, which and then I'll sort of be like this, you know.
I have you at the 15.
You have me at 15. Okay, good. Yes, and it could be the gnomes. It could be that someone sent the gnomes, or it could be Alan, that Alan did it because he's in the chat room tonight, and I blame everything on Alan. But yeah, because I have a personality disorder, which is called blaming everything on Alan. No, I don't have I've never been diagnosed with a personality disorder, and I'm very aware of it in other people.
Stigma really, really terrible.
Yeah. Christopher, you don't strike me as someone who has that issue. You know, there's a really good book though that I want everyone. Oh, Nicola asked a question. There's a good book called People of the Lie, which has to do with the paranormal. It has to do with demonic influence and possession and personality disorders. It's by M. Scott Peck, who wrote What Color Is Your Parachute? And I think y'all should get it if you don't have it and download it and read the whole thing all the way through and be patient with it. Because if you do paranormal work, it also can go into the dynamics of why somebody gets attacked by negative entities or demonic beings and what it produces in them, which is oftentimes blaming other people for everything. Like I just blamed Alan for my technical difficulties, but doing it consistently and not being responsible, etc., as well as other things. So People of the Lie, it's an old book. I don't know if it's still in print. If you can get it, it's well worth having. Now, Nicola has a question for us, Christopher. A few weeks ago, I woke up very weak and sweating. Are you able to see what happened that night? Was it something with my health or something else? Okay, so if it's something with your health, I can't diagnose or prescribe anything, but I could tell you what I see, and then you can get it checked out. Hold on one second, Nicola. And thank you, Alan, for being so generous and taking my blame. Hold on, Nicola. Christopher, feel free to talk about something while I connect for Nicola.
Nicola, do you have also any type of spiritual issues as well?
Well, something happened. Yeah, she can write about that in 30 seconds. Something happened between 1:30 and 3, which is prime time for being abducted. But I feel it's more. I feel inability to breathe. I feel pain in the chest. Almost like pressure on your chest. Hold on. Yeah. I'm more connecting with your body because there's some really amazing and not so great stuff happening between like 1:30 and 2:15 in the morning with your body, and it just feels like this inability to breathe and this inability to move. But the main thing has to do with there's just this compression of your chest. It's almost like you're being squeezed and your head's being squeezed and your chest is being squeezed and you can't move. Now, I know sleep paralysis events are much, much less long than what I'm getting for a length on this. And I'm also, I'm not seeing any aliens because I'm so connected with your body. And it could just be that I need to change my perspective and I need to close my eyes. But I am getting the sense of somebody actually putting something in your mouth. And sometimes that does happen during abduction experiences where we get things put in our mouth, especially in the ones where they're, you're not doing some other job and it is about a physical thing. But it's almost like somebody has put a rag or something in your mouth. And it does not look good. Hold on one second. But the whole thing about breathing in your chest, I don't know. Hold on.
You able to read her implant?
Yeah, I get there. They were in the room. I don't think they took her anywhere, but I get aliens in the room and around her head and things going on around her head and her not being able to move and her not being able to breathe. But a lot of stuff around your head, especially your left eye and your right in the corner between the bridge of your nose, right in the corner of your eye, just above your eye, above the corner of your eye. And so a lot of stuff on the left side of your body, a lot of stuff around the left side of your eye. If you ever have pain there, pay attention to that. If you do energy work, you would pay attention to that, Nicola. I hope that you're okay. Drink a lot of water. And what we used to do is put water by our bedside and see if it got disturbed. And it's sort of like the Dave Scott thing. You could also put things on your bedstand and see if they get disturbed. But yeah, it does look now when I change my perspective and I sort of hop out of your body and look around that you were in bed, but things were being done at the same time. I hope that doesn't freak you out. For me, it's no big deal because I've had lots and lots of years to get over it. But yeah, it looked like something happened. Sandra asked, it's almost the end of the show. My daughter's dog was sleeping with us and they were both snoring and I heard a female ha-ha twice in the corner. What was that? I don't think I have time to connect with that, Sandra, because we are at the end of our time. Sorry about that. You can PM me if you want, and I'll take a look at that, Sandra, for you. Nicole, let me know that you're okay. Go ahead and PM me on Elizabeth Anglin. For all of you who have stayed in chat listening, thank you. Christopher, thank you for coming on. This has been Cosmic Passport on spacedoutradio.com. We will try to redo this show with the appropriate editing so you can hear the whole thing at another time, or at least Byron Lacy's part, since Rabbit Hole Blessings is going to be over by the end. Check out Rabbit Hole Blessings and Sage Magdalene's event. Byron Lacy, you can get his book Chosen online on Amazon and other places. And there's also music that you can get as well. This week coming up, Amy Martin's going to be on tomorrow night with Dave Scott. Dave will be on for 5 nights. Dave Cruz will be on Saturday. And I'll be in on Sunday with Wendy Del Bianco, Galactic Medium, and Jeanette Dames, Angel Therapist, for Psychic Sunday. Thanks again for listening, and stay safe out there. People are getting a little interesting in their ways of being as we get into the holidays. A little bit stressed for cash, a little bit stressed for money. So, keep your hands on your wallets. Keep your eyes out for things that are going on. Take care of yourself. Have a happy Turkey Day if you're in the U.S. And if you're having problems with your family, I am a medium and a psychic, and I also do a lot of readings about family around the holidays. You can contact me at elizabethanglin.com. I'm smiling because I know that I'm going to get slammed on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with people saying, my family! Don't do that. Just call me and have a conversation about the strange dynamics that happen during the holiday on Tuesday, next week or after Thanksgiving or whenever you get home and need to punch some pillows. Again, thanks so much for listening. Christopher, thanks for being here. We'll be back next Sunday. Love y'all. See you later.
Everyone's got an electric eye where the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching.